On, we could tell that something was wrong, and I know it was unmanned, but this is a pretty big catastrophe here.
All right, David Gordon and Chopper 16, thanks very much. As we continue to look at live pictures, we've got a couple of different perspectives that we're showing you. We've got from the air, Chopper 16, that is our camera on the ground, and then we're also adding NASA TV, which has some cameras as well. There was a rocket explosion from NASA Wallops back in the 1980s. That was a rocket that was self-destructed. It started to veer off course. Nothing of the magnitude of what we're seeing right now happening on Wallops Island in Accomack County. I'm sure that a lot of residents around there felt that explosion, and now you're seeing a lot of smoke, a lot of flames. We have no reports of any injuries on the ground. We have the video queued up. Let's go ahead and play this again from the final seconds.
3, 2, 1.
See, there's a lot of flame
right there. Something starts to clear the tower, and I think it's about right here is where it's there. Right there, it just explodes. And falls back,
and then the big explosion as it hits the ground.
It looks like the first stage exploded, and then you have the whole thing go off.
That is something else.
So there was an explosion as he got about 6-7 seconds into the flight.
Just after it cleared the tower.
Team, be advised, stay at your consoles. Everyone in the LCC, maintain your positions in your consoles.
Again, that's a recording back to live pictures here from Chopper 16 as the flames continue to spread on Wallops Island. We heard someone in Mission Control mention significant property damage. You better believe it as the flames continue to spread. And you know, they have contingencies for this, but there's a certain amount of, they have to let some of this burn. How you get fire crews to some of these remote areas of Wallops, it's going to be difficult.
Well, the solid rocket fuel, if that's what's burning downrange, and it may very well be, that is burning at such a hot temperature, there is really nothing they can do except to let that burn itself out. It would be very dangerous to even get close to that.
Right.
You can see some engines right there.
Right, that looked like the causeway. The replay again. It looks like there's a little bit of flame on the left side of the rocket right there.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard to tell, but
it is hard to tell.
But boy, something happens right about now. You're going to see that engine. It just bam, it blows.
Like something ignited at that spot.
Continuing now with our expanded live coverage of this explosion that happened just after 6:22 this evening on Wallops Island, the Antares rocket. This was supposed to be the third orbital sciences mission to the International Space Station. Aboard was the cargo spacecraft, the Cygnus spacecraft, carrying some 5,000 pounds of supplies to the ISS. Obviously, that is not going to happen. Still no answers as to exactly what happened, what went wrong. It's going to be a while. It's going to take NASA some time to figure all that out. Dan, you've covered a lot of launches of the space shuttle.
That's true, and you know what? I mean, think about this. You're taking 5,000 pounds and you're shoving it into orbit at 17,500 miles an hour. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy to do that. It takes a lot of power. So that thing is full of fuel. And you have two stages. One is a liquid stage that has liquid oxygen and liquid fuel, and then you have the solid rocket stage, and it looks like both of them exploded. I mean, the first one was the first stage, and that was the liquid stage, but that extreme heat apparently has set off the upper stage, and it's now burning, and that's probably the one that's going to be really hard to put out.
Right.
It's just going to have to burn itself out.
Exactly. There's not much you can do about that. Which is why you have these launch pads in these remote locations. 6 seconds after launch is when this occurred. Again, Antares, 110 feet tall, carrying the Cygnus cargo spacecraft with supplies to the ISS.
Stay at your consoles. Everyone in the LCC, maintain your positions in your consoles.
And that's a replay.
Positions at your console.
is that live? That last picture there. We'd like to keep showing some pictures if we can, as we continue to just, you know, we're following NASA TV. I'm following NASA Wallops and Orbital Sciences on Twitter. That, you know, they've sort of shut down in terms of Twitter. They're trying to get some answers. There's not much that they can say at this point, and really what they're concerned with right now is keeping everybody safe and keeping track of these flames and this smoke that continues to flow northward, it looks like, Dan.
Yeah, the winds are out of the south-southwest, and if my weather intern Shannon, if you can put up, find the current wind map, and we'll pop that up on the air across Delmarva. I'm pretty sure we have a south to southwest wind around 4 to 9, 10 miles an hour. So it will blow all of this smoke, hopefully a little bit out to sea, but because of the angle of the coast there, some of that smoke may actually come over land down on the south end of Assateague.
You can imagine there's going to be a lot of ground system damage down there, as you can tell from the fires, although it looks like we're into look at that picture right there. You can see some of the fire.
We've got it up here.
And it's going to be, like Dan mentioned before, there's a lot of rocket fuel here, so that's going to have to burn out, it looks like, by itself, because there's a lot going on there. And Dan, you said...
Yeah, that's high-energy rocket fuel. I mean, you can actually do the math on how much energy it takes to shove 5,000 pounds 150 miles up at that speed, and it's an amazing amount of energy. Fortunately, here's the wind right now. Southwest at 13 in Ocean City, southwest at 12 at Wallops. You can see by the angle of the coast, though, some of that smoke is going to be going right along the coastline of Assateague, maybe even as far, perhaps, as close to Ocean City, up on the Assateague seashore. So anyone out there, you know, I would advise not to be near that smoke, because there could be some danger with that smoke.
More live pictures from Chopper 16. It looks like I see some red lights there, so some trucks, some emergency crews have gotten relatively close trying to get a handle on these flames, but really it looks like these flames are out of control. 13-mile-an-hour wind, that's not helping firefighters. No. As the flames continue to burn on Wallops Island. There's a picture from NASA TV. You know, a pretty night out there as we see through the smoke, and things starting to calm down there. It looks really like a lot of the action has happened where they don't have some fire suppression systems like they do on the launch pad.
Yeah, I'm wondering what that big line of fire is from. Is it liquid fuel that's burning? Is it perhaps the solid rocket booster? The second stage may have been exploded away from it and then lit on fire, and what you're seeing is just the line of that material. That stuff, of course, it takes a lot of heat to start it, but once it gets going, it burns.
But no doubt a long night ahead for fire crews, which I imagine are all being called in from Salisbury all the way down to help with this situation from all over Delmarva, because this is going to take a lot, especially in an area like here. You know, you're going to have to be trucking in a lot of tankers full of water to help fight these flames. A replay again.
2, 1. Liftoff of Antares for 3 missions that bring Cygnus on its 3rd CRS mission to the ISS. Got main engines at 108%.
Avionics power nominal.
And there it is, crashing to the ground, a huge explosion upon impact, debris and flames shooting skyward. Big fireball. It's always hard to get a perspective on television of how big that fireball is. We're going to get to Bill Mitch, who's on the ground trying to gather some more information. Bill, what do you have for us? Bill Mitch, you there? All right, Bill's still working, trying to get some information.
Can you hear me, Steve?
I can hear you, Bill.
Sorry about that. We're speaking with NASA personnel that are asking us to leave the area where we were standing to film this launch. We do know is that every fire personnel that was watching this launch from where we were standing, there was a multitude of trucks over here, have taken off, and they're obviously on the island right now. Now, one of the NASA officials who were trying to get us to clear the area spoke to us, and I asked her, was there anybody near that? And she told me the closest people that were to that launch were us, the media, who were standing there watching it. So there was nobody on that island when that explosion took place. So everybody head out there to put that fire out right now. Like I said, we're being asked to leave the area where we were. So wherever we end up, we're going to try to get more and bring that to you. But at early preliminary reports, nobody was on the island when that explosion took place.
Certainly some good news there. Bill Mitch, thanks very much. We'll let you get moving. Sounds like you have to. Dan Satterfield has a very interesting radar picture to share with us now.
Yeah, what you're looking at here is the radar image of the smoke plume. Now, it looks like it's right on top of Chincoteague. The radar beam is intercepting that smoke way above the surface there. But you can see the radar beam just passed over it. So you're looking at that smoke passing over Chincoteague right now.
Right.
About 4,000 or 5,000 feet above Chincoteague. The radar is seeing that big smoke plume that is rising up from the pad, which is actually a little bit to the southwest of there. Yeah, but where the radar beam passes through the smoke happens to be right now just over Chincoteague. So that smoke is moving right up across Chincoteague and on up the coast with that southwest wind. Hopefully well above the surface by the time it gets up to Assateague. That's a really good thing that the winds were not out of the south or southeast tonight, because it would be blowing that smoke well inland instead of along the coast.
So the story has shifted a bit to the north of the launch pad. This is just north of the launch pad, and this is a remote area, the part of Wallops Island, and this is exactly why you have launch pads far away from any residential areas. The flames continuing to spread. We suspect this is the solid rocket fuel, but also probably dry conditions there in the marsh of Wallops Island, and a difficult night ahead for firefighters trying to get a handle on this. And you have to wonder, you know, how much of this do you sort of got to let it burn itself out. But it's a tricky situation. The good news, as we just confirmed through WBOC's Bill Mitch, no injuries reported. Nobody was nearby that launch pad, as we suspected. That's the way Wallops has always operated. And you can see there's the situation on the launch pad. We see some smoke, but no flames there. They have the fire suppression system.
That knocks it out right there, but I suspect that launch pads, if it fell back onto the pad like it looks like it did, I suspect that launch pad has been heavily damaged.
And that's, you know, sadly part of this story that is going to go on. We won't get into that too much here, but, you know, this is a big deal for the future of Wallops as well. As they're contracted in all to have 8 launches through 2016 with Orbital Sciences.
We also have to think about the International Space Station. We had 5,000 pounds of water and all kinds of stuff and food going up there that's now not going to be going. So they're going to be, I'm sure NASA has contingencies for this, but obviously they're going to be watching their supplies carefully.
It's a big loss for Orbital Sciences, because I think I read where each of these launches cost about $237 million to send this rocket up, each one of them. So that's a big hit for Orbital Sciences and Wallops.
I can't recall an early launch failure of this spectacular since perhaps all the way back in the Vanguard days when NASA was trying to get the first orbital up. You know, there's some classic film of a launch pad failure, but most of the failures have been higher up into space. I saw a GOES satellite launch fail, but it was already about 40 miles high. The famous shuttle disasters were way up, almost into space. Even the Challenger disaster was up at about 70,000, 80,000 feet above the surface, but this was just above the tower.
They had, in the early 90s, a rocket launch from Wallops, and it was about 50 seconds in. They had to self-destruct as it started to veer off course.
Right.
Wasn't nearly of this magnitude. And there will be a lot of people we will be hearing from in the hours and days ahead who witnessed this, who felt it, people who live nearby.
I'm wondering how far north here on Delmarva, away from Wallops, the sound of that explosion reached. I would not be surprised to hear that it was heard all the way into Delaware. If someone was outside, they heard that boom. Of course, traveling at the speed of sound, it probably took it about 10 minutes to reach that far north, but it was certainly, it's got to be one of the biggest explosions ever on Delmarva, because we were putting so much weight into orbit from down there. You know, we've had a lot of launches from Wallops, but this was probably one of the most high energy launches that we've ever had.
Yeah, you just see at about 6 seconds in, you just see there's another ignition
Yeah, it looks like it's a sudden failure.
Right
right there. A sudden failure of that engine, and that's the upward motion stops and it falls right back in.
It loses its thrust.
And then it explodes completely there.
So recapping here in our final 20-some seconds before we join the CBS Evening News, obviously the Antares rocket exploding just after liftoff, 6 seconds into launch, and a massive explosion. The firefighters have their hands full right now in a remote portion, the northern part of Wallops Island. The flames continuing to spread. We got an eye on it. We will have the latest for you as soon as it becomes available. Thanks for joining us, everybody.